What the city is talking about. This is Montreal Now on News Talk Radio, CJAD 800.
Today we're announcing that we will reduce the number of immigrants we bring in over the next 3 years, which will result in a pause in the population growth over the next 2 years. All of which we are implementing with a single aim: stabilize our population growth to give all levels of government time to catch up.
We can't expect that Justin Trudeau will keep any of these frantic, panicked, last-minute promises that he's making to reverse his earlier decisions.
There you go. Both sides there. Justin Trudeau announcing that big announcement today on immigration. Fair to call that a step back from what everything, that was introduced earlier on. And then Pierre Poilievre doing what Pierre Poilievre does. James Mennie is on the line over at the Montreal Gazette. Jim, how are you?
I'm excellent. Welcome back. And I have to tell you, you're not going to hear this very often on the show, but I believe Pierre Poilievre is 125,000% right on this particular issue. I hate to say it, Aaron, but I laughed out loud yesterday when I saw, when the news began to leak out about the announced cuts in immigration levels, which came literally within hours of this psychodrama caucus meeting with the mutinous MPs, and I'm still going to be in charge, and the MPs saying, well, no, we're giving you until next week to let us know if you're going to stay, if you're going to go. So we go from that, we segue to this, and then we hear basically the Prime Minister of Canada saying, yeah, you know what? We're going to take this gigantic, Titanic-sized immigration policy, and we're going to turn it around, and there's going to be a pause in population growth. Unfortunately, because the thing is so big and the momentum of the system itself, we'll probably not even feel this for about a year and a half. But what he's saying is, instead of taking in 10 immigrants an hour, I'm going to take in 8. Okay, so everybody just chillax. I don't think that's not going to be enough. First of all, Francois Legault, who once again is kind of leading the charge on this, and with some reason as well, seeing as how Quebec has got half of the temporary immigrants coming to Canada on its territory, and has been seeking compensation for that for years, literally years. He turns around and says, "This is not a big cut," and it isn't a big cut. And I would be very surprised if, even in the long term, we're going to see any real actual tangible effects. The fact is, we don't have enough houses, we don't have enough resources. So we're saying, well, we're going to reduce demand, but that's not going to happen overnight. It's not going to happen, as far as I'm concerned, over a year. We may see it in a couple of years' time, and even then, is it just going to nudge down a little bit? Or is this just the kind of thing where Justin Trudeau, who is already sort of like, how can I put it metaphorically, gathering all kinds of flotsam and jetsam to create this kind of political life raft for him to go from one week to the next? Is he just going to grab these headlines for this week and say, look, see, I reduced immigration levels in Canada? Well, that's not exactly what happened. You say you're going to do it, and you may do it eventually, but are you going to be able to do it in sufficient time for you to say even profit from this in an election? I doubt it very much, and I really get the impression, like I say, it hit me last night, but certainly it was confirmed today. This is nothing more than a Hail Mary. This is a desperation move. And quite frankly, it's only a matter of time, I think, till you'll have immigration lawyers on your show saying, listen, this is a horrible idea. And if the system was broken before, now it's absolute chaos.
So a couple of things, Jim, to your point about Pierre Poilievre, I think for a lot of people on this particular issue, it is hard to argue against this. The government is basically, you talk about a 180-degree sort of, turn. We went from, hey, come on, everybody come on in. And then when people started saying, wait a sec, we don't have the resources, the social assistance is not there to provide for these people. It seems to me, Jim, no matter what you think of this today, it's come way too late.
It's coming way too late. And remember, we're talking about, what year was it? Was it 2016, 2017? That an entire nation's immigration policy was based on a one-sentence tweet from Justin Trudeau saying, come one, come all, Canada is welcoming, and that was it. And then it wasn't that long ago that the Prime Minister of Canada, with a straight face, was turning around saying, we are going to be taking in 500,000 people a year. And now he's saying, well, maybe that's a little high. We're going to be down to 300, 300 and change. But as I say, it is in fact a 20% drop. It is not going to be, as far as I'm concerned, we are not going to feel the effects of this in terms of, and I think this is the most important thing that is really, really being missed in the story. the immigrants themselves who are being shortchanged again by this system. The people who came here in good faith and now are being told, well, no, we're going to have to slow down a little bit, because, we don't really have enough space for you, which sounds ridiculous in and of itself, but that's pretty much the argument that's being made. It's one thing to improvise, indeed, when you're in a pandemic and you've got to do something in the here and now. When you see a move like this today, as far as I'm concerned, it is straight political improvisation, triggered by desperation on the part of the Trudeau administration, realizing that the walls are closing in. It's not your imagination. It is not a mainstream media conspiracy with the polling companies. This government is in huge trouble. And the fact that it went after its hallmark jewel in the crown policy issue, which is immigration, it's Justin Trudeau's trademark issue, to turn around and say, well, maybe we didn't quite get it as right as we wanted to, speaks volumes about where that party is right now.
Well, you knew they were going to get this kind of reaction from pretty much anybody. I know Jagmeet Singh spoke about this today as well. You kind of wonder, Jim, and obviously we don't have an inside track here, why was this so important to do now? And I said forget about late. I mean, why is this even important to do? The government's already admitted it made a mistake. They're dealing with with foreign students. So why this, do you think?
Because we're talking, I won't say it was 100% the motivation, but we are talking that much less about the apprehended mutiny within the ranks of the federal Liberal Party.
Okay.
Please don't tell me it is just the merest coincidence that within hours of Justin Trudeau apparently dodging a bullet in this famous caucus meeting, he turns around and decides, yeah, while I'm at it, I guess I better deal with that immigration thing. It's been kind of festering there for a while. Excuse me. Anybody who actually literally follows the story for more than 120 minutes can see cause, effect, and that's what we're talking about today.
All right, let's move on to talk about Valerie Plante. I will ask the question of our listeners in a minute, but look, it went from yesterday when people were saying, I wonder who'll fill the gap. All of a sudden, I've seen like 15 different names being put forward by different people about who might be interested, who could be interested. So what do you think, first of all, about that? And when you write, maybe she took one for the team, what does that mean?
Well, here's the thing, talking about a lack of coincidence. First of all, let's address what you mentioned to start with. Everybody and his dog is going to be perceived as a potential candidate for the mayoralty, even though everybody and their dog, especially the dog, probably has zero interest in doing so. That's one of the things that has always struck us on this show about the particular job. How many times have I come on? How is it so difficult to convince someone to step up and be mayor of the second largest city in Canada? And yet it seems to be very, very problematic. A lot of people are keeping their powder dry. There's lots and lots of speculation. But I really think until we find out what the state of play is with the city, with its finances, I don't think anybody who's got any qualifications and who's got 4 years of his or her life to devote to salvaging Montreal is going to want to go in there knowing that it's a lost cause, knowing that, they may be a few steps away from trusteeship. That said, and I mentioned this yesterday when we were talking about the story, I was amazed on how absolutely zero molecules of this story got leaked before Ms. Plante's announcement. The fact that this came down as an honest-to-God bombshell on everybody, that nobody had the inside track on her announcement. And, of course, now we're saying, well, could it be that, the situation for women in politics is terrible, that's why she's leaving? I'm sure that could be part of it. And for sure, she has discussed this quite frankly, although up until now, it was more a matter of, shutting down comments on her social media accounts and so on and so forth. But Aaron, I have to tell you, and once again, here we go with the amazing coincidences, La Presse posts a Somme poll that it commissioned. It was conducted 2 weeks ago, showing that more than half of the respondents, more than half of the 1,400 respondents, which for the city of Montreal is a pretty big sampling, did not want to see Valerie Plante around for a third term. Now, if that poll came up with that result, and we know for a fact Projet Montreal polls its head off, you and I have discussed its internal polls looking at potential contenders for the mayor's job in the next election, what's to say that Projet, they sat down, they looked at the polls, and she said, listen, I believe in what we're doing. I believe that, if we play our cards right, we can turn this entire island into one big bicycle path, but we can't do it so long as I'm the mayor. So I'm going to step down. We'll put someone in who's a little more palatable to the electorate, and we'll try and go for a third term without me. I think she realized, and I think Projet Montreal realized, that if they have a shot at a third term, it's going to have to be without Valérie Plante, because I cannot see, given all the other things that she's been criticized for, and she's been able to take it. I mean, she has proven herself to have a skin a lot thicker than a lot of her male counterparts who've been at this game a lot longer than she has. But, I mean, when it comes to that, she was tough as nails. So to suddenly turn around and say, listen, I don't think I'll have the same energy, it really sounded to me as if a conclusion had been reached, whether on her part alone or in concert with the party. And she figured, I am now a potential liability to the party. I will step aside. I will oversee the selection of a new leader, and we'll try and take it from there. Because let's face it, Aaron, virtually every policy announcement from the city of Montreal now, from this administration, is being subject to a tremendous amount of criticism, either rightly or wrongly, simply because it seems we are so used to that in this town that, that's just what you do. And I don't think that is the best, way to set forth on your attempt to get a third term.
As I hear you describe that, I couldn't help but think if you just change the name from Valérie Plante to Justin Trudeau, you described something that he would be doing now too. For the better of the party, I'm walking away.
I have to tell you, I've said this on the show. I'm not having an epiphany here. I think a lot of this is ego. I think a lot of this is Justin Trudeau saying, "Oh yeah, I'll show you," even though even though it's clear that the party, if the party is going to survive as a viable political vehicle after the departure of Justin Trudeau, he's got to get out and get out now.
Okay.
But the fact is that seems to be the last thing on his mind. And as we just saw today, I mean, here I am, a guy who was not noted for praising the works of Pierre Poilievre, turning around saying, you know what, he's 100% right on this. I think a lot of Canadians were nodding as he said that. A lot of Canadians who ordinarily find Pierre Poilievre a bit annoying were saying, yeah, of course the guy's right. Well, he's in that situation, not because of any brilliance on his part, Aaron. He's in that situation thanks to Justin Trudeau.
I would simply say, we got to get out of here because I want to ask the question. But I would say in the case of Valérie Plante, and we're all wondering why she's doing this, if the energy thing is just whatever that means, whatever it's a smokescreen for. And she's going to be, by the way, here tomorrow. She's going to be on the show. But I wondered, Jim, to your original question, is she beginning to see, forget that poll, is she beginning to see, the boat listing a little bit, right? The idea that you mentioned, the idea of Quebec having to basically take over because the finances here are so bad. Is that the big picture she saw and said, I don't want any part of it?
I think so. I think it's more than the ship is listing. I think the decks are awash. I think there is a real problem here, a fundamental problem with how Montreal works, or more specifically, how it doesn't work. And some changes have to come down the pike. And maybe the idea was perhaps she saw that in the future, perhaps being nothing more than a genuine lame duck mayor answering to some trust board of trustees up in Quebec City. A lot of people said ever since the 76 Olympics are, and we've been in unofficial trusteeship from Quebec, which is why they said, well, they'll never let a mayor go crazy with money again. But here we are. We're in a situation where we can actually hear the city's finances creaking, and we're not seeming to get any kind of a bang for our buck.
James Mennie at the Montreal Gazette. Thank you, Jim.
Matt.